Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's me, Normal Guy North, and today we're surfacing with a full deep dive into the Tier 10 British tech tree submarine HMS Thrasher in World of Warships. Thrasher is the final evolution of the British submarine line, bringing powerful homing torpedoes, best-in-class dive mechanics, and even a manual control gun, which is awesome. A unique feature among submarines. But don't be fooled by the flashy tools. This boat comes with some serious weakness that can catch you off guard. So, how do you captain Thrasher effectively and avoid becoming fish food and fish bait? Let's dive in and find out. Okay, before we get into gameplay, let's talk history. HMS Thrasher, or N-37, was a British T-class submarine, launched in 1940 and served primarily in the Mediterranean during World War II. She gained fame in 1942 after surviving a daring patrol during which 2 unexploded bombs became lodged in her casing. Ugh. Against all odds, her crew moved them manually and underwater, I might add, while still at sea, earning both the Distinguished Service Order and the Victoria Cross for their heroism. Thrasher went on to complete numerous successful war patrols, sinking a range of enemy vessels and proving herself to be as reliable and a resilient hunter. In World of Warships, that legacy lives on, but her success depends entirely on how well you handle her complex toolkit and know her limitations. Alright, let's start with what makes Thrasher so deadly. That's her homing torpedoes. Like all British tech tree subs, Thrasher does not carry conventional torps. Instead, she relies entirely on homing torpedoes, supported by a sonar system with a 12-kilometer range and a 500 meter per second ping velocity and a 6-second reload time. That's actually really good in the game. Each sonar ping gives you 25 seconds of homing time for a single ping, and a whopping 65 seconds for double pings. These long durations are key as they allow your torpedoes to stay locked on even if the enemy starts maneuvering. Once upgraded, Thrasher's homing torpedoes can deal 8,167 damage. It's not great, but it's not bad. They travel at 78 knots, which is pretty fast, and come with a strong, ready for this, 42% flood chance. They're not the fastest, but their 1.7 detectability makes them much harder to see coming, giving the enemy only about 8.1 seconds to react, and that's pushing 8.1, which is tighter than most of the Tier 10 subs that give a full 10-second window. She carries a total of 11 torpedo tubes, 8 forward and 3 stern. However, there's a catch. Her stern tubes are fixed at a specific angle, making them kind of clunky and situational at best. You'll often have to swing your entire rear to get all 3 away at once, which can be awkward and dangerous if you're being chased or under fire. Her reload is grouped. The bow tubes reload in sets of 4, and all 3 stern tubes reload together. Each group takes 40 seconds. This setup encourages staggering salvos, allowing you to constantly apply pressure, harass targets, and force consumable usage. Don't blow your entire load. One standout feature of the Thrasher is her deck gun. I love deck guns in Submarine. It's a rarity for subs in the game, and she's the only British sub to offer manual control over it. This gun only becomes available while fully surfaced, and while it's not fast, it fires 1 SAP shell every 5 seconds. With an 18-second turn traverse, it still delivers respectable 2,700 DPM at 6 kilometers. Its arcs cover port, bow, starboard, but not the stern, which limits its use during retreats. It won't win you a fight outright, but it's an excellent finisher for low HP targets like destroyers or cruisers, especially those that dodge your torps. Now, let's talk durability, because this is where things start getting, a little dicey. Thrasher's hit point pool is only 16,800, putting her firmly at the bottom of the pack among Tier 10 submarines. Her entire hull is wrapped in 19mm armor, which is just enough to get destroyer gunfire overpan, but not too much more. In short, if you are spotted, you're in serious trouble. You're probably going back to port. And speaking of being spotted, Thrasher has the worst concealment in tier, checking in at 6.1 kilometers. This means that all their Tier 10 submarines and nearly every Tier 10 destroyer can outspot you. You'll often be detected before you detect them, which makes pre-positioning and support from the Allies absolutely critical. However, once you're underwater, Thrasher truly shines in maneuverability. She boasts the best-in-class rudder shift time at 6 seconds and a tight turning radius of 460 meters. That agility combined with her fast interior dive plane shift time and a 3.5 meter per second dive speed gives her an edge when it comes to evading and diving and repositioning underwater. She's not quick though, just 26 knots on the surface and a sluggish 18 knots submerged, making her the slowest submarine at Tier 10. Speed is not your ally, stealth and timing are. Her battery capacity, however, is huge at 340 units, giving you a maximum of 5 minutes and 50 seconds submerged. That's almost 6 minutes with upgrades. That's a long time to stalk targets and reposition without needing to surface, but don't get too comfortable. Her recharge rate is only 0.6 units per second, the worst in tier, meaning it takes a painfully long time to rebuild her dive capacity once drained. So pay attention to that. All right, let's talk what we've got here. So as for modules, or I guess module upgrades, you guys know me, I take main armor modification. I do it all the time, enjoy it immensely. I do take engine room protection, pretty much. I do take submarine surveillance, the minus 20% for cooldown. Now you can take, if you don't want to spend that. The dive capacity is my other recommendation if you don't want to buy the extra module for 17,000 coal. I do take submarine steering gears, minus 50% for rudder shift time and diving planes. This is very important because I'm an aggressive player, and when I almost get spotted, I like to get back down, especially in this class of submarine. Now I do take reinforced bulkheads. That's a minus 15% damage caused by depth charges. And I do take dive modification. That gives modification too. That gives me a plus 15% dive capacity, so it increases my dive capacity. These are the flags I take. However, the ones I like to point out: Juliet Whiskey, a plus 15 flooding chance, very important. Next one's obviously Sierra Mark, gives you a plus 5% speed boost, which is important. Next one I take is obviously X-ray Pop, like I've said before, a plus 5% of dive capacity. And the last one that's important to me is the Sierra Bravo. This is good for your hydrophone, submarine surveillance, cooldown time, getting it back up, getting your consumer to last longer. It's just a must-have flag out of all of them. Now, it does come with a standard repair. Comes back up in 48 seconds, which is not bad. And of course, you got hydrophone. It's only 6 kilometers, but you know the cooldown time in this is less than 22 seconds. It's fantastic. And of course, you got submarine surveillance, and it's only 6 kilometers, but I've got it set to last 63 seconds. Cooldown time is only 70 seconds. That's not too bad. So, I don't mind it. Let's get into the captain skills. All right, I do take Cunningham. This is going to be a standard theme. Liquidator, plus 30% flooding chance. Very important. Helmsman, when you use the hydrophone, which I do coming up every time, and I see the bad guys out there, it gives me an extra 10% reduction in dive planes and rudder shift. Get back down so I don't get spotted and don't get dead. Okay, priority target. Detecting high indicator shows you how many people or opponents are pointing their guns at you. If you are sub and you are spotted, this is going to light up with a big, huge hunk of numbers. Of course, I take consumables enhancement, plus 5% on my action time for all my consumables. That's awesome. I do take preventive maintenance, gives you a minus 30% reduction in incapacitating your modules. That's very important for your steering gears, your engine, etc., because it does get damaged. Number one skill I see that's important is for me is watchful. This is the best skill in submarines to take. It's like having a submarine crew with you to tell you what's going on. Of course, the next one's Consuma Specialist. It's a minus 15% reduction in preparation for your consumables. Very important. Of course, then I take Adrenaline Rush because you want to take HP damage, and every time it gets less, you get things that happen much quicker for you. Last one is always plus 18% speed boost when you're below 50% battery power. This is very helpful with the British because if you get below 50%, you're going to want this. So how do you make Thrasher work? She excels at mid to long range support sub, not a frontline hunter or brawler. Your main job is to saturate a flank with waves and waves of homing torpedoes, forcing the enemy to constantly maneuver and burn damage control. Positioning is everything. Stay close to friendly destroyers or radar cruisers. They can spot for you and help protect your flanks. You'll want to be preemptively pinging targets, stagger your torpedoes, avoid exposing your position unless you're going to, for certain going to get a kill. Do your best to avoid sub versus sub fights unless you're absolutely certain you have the upper hand. Her poor detection tools and fragile hull make her vulnerable against aggressive enemy submarines, especially the German line and the Russian line. And while you can shotgun with these bow tubes, the best reserved for soft or low health targets, capital ships will laugh off your alpha thanks to their torpedo protection. Your deck can be useful, but only when the stars align. Don't surface just to use it. Save it for corner cases where the enemy is actually barely hanging on, and surfacing won't get you immediately deleted. Overall, Thrasher thrives when played defensively and patiently. Let the game unfold, pick off isolated targets, make full use of her excellent torpedo saturation and high flooding chance. She's not built to be aggressive, but if you play smart, you can be brutally effective. And remember, watch your mini-map. HMS Thrasher is a mix of brilliance and vulnerability. On the one hand, you get incredibly homing torpedoes, best-in-class diving agility, and a massive dive timer. On the other hand, you are burdened with low HP, terrible concealment, and poor anti-submarine tools. One has 612 does on the other. If you enjoy playing methodically, stalking targets, punishing missteps, and staying 2 steps ahead, she offers a high reward experience, but if you like aggressive, higher risk subplay, you may find her frustrating limited. She's not easy, but in the right hands, HMS Thrasher is a scalpel, precise, patient, and punishing. Alright everyone, thanks for sticking around. I do really appreciate it. If you found this review helpful, hey, please hit the like, subscribe, and let me know down in the comments. Does Thrasher suit your style, or are you sticking to something more forgiving like, say, Gato or Baleo? But until next time, as always, take care, stay safe, wish you all the best, and bye for now.